quickness of the hand, to seize the eye, well sometimes. What is it? It's a ball on a bit of elastic, designed by a German. I remember seeing him at Nuremberg wearing a little smart, dapper suit and making this thing go back and forward as quick as you could. You have to let go of it, shoots across, and you've got to catch it with his hand. Let go, shoot across into his hand, back and forward, and it's quite tricky to do. And if you don't close your hand fast enough, it hits the knuckles. But it's a nice finger fiddle, and that's what I'm looking at now. Things that entertain the fingers and are fun to look at as well. A feast for the eyes and a feast for the fingers. That's a nice one. Here's another one which is very pretty, a feast for the eyes, and a very simple mechanism. It's just a spring that's been coiled around in a very attractive way, so that when you turn it, it makes these lovely shapes. It's as if it's running up and down. It's a beautiful action. But simply a long spring that's been coiled 3 times around and then interwound as well to create a very enjoyable and quite a nice little feel to it as well. It's almost big enough to put on the hand, not quite big enough, but it'll fit up and down some of the fingers as well. It's got a lovely feel to it. A jolly good finger fiddle, that one. Here's a simple clackers one, something that I've shown before, but this is a nice one. It's got a handle to it. And when you're up and down, like that, or sideways like that, or up and down like that, very satisfying. Hard work too, in hot weather you can't really do that, but it's a simple one. And it means that because they're not on loose strings, it won't hit your knuckles and things. So an easy one to do. Finger fiddles, which are fun to do and simple. Here's a much more sophisticated thing, the sort of thing that Paul Schartz invented, I think. I'm not sure whether it was one of his, but it's a lovely, these are all 3 prototypes of a very nice idea. When this rotates round, let's get that in the right order, that's right. You're getting a series of very, very attractive shapes. There's a nice triangle, but it's a triangle on the table. We're coming round to that in a minute. There we are, the triangle is now a triangular table with things sticking out. Keep going, you've got this strange shape here. And as we come round, we suddenly realise it's become a cube again. Extraordinary. So it starts off with that. Here's another one made with little bits of coloured plastic. You have to get them in the right order as they're turning around, but it's got a very attractive and interesting feeling to the geometry and a nice feel to the motion as well as it goes round. And when you've completed the cycle, it finishes it up as a cube. Both prototypes, I'm not sure whether they're made for large commercial purposes. And another one here from the same inventor, just a beautiful finger fiddle, rotating round motion here. That's certainly been made in very, very nice plastic with lovely pictures morphing. I think it's a very beautiful one. I do love things which have a bit of geometry to them as well and are attractive to look at and stimulate the brain. That's what I like. This is something similar. It's a kind of honeycomb paper. They called it liquid cardboard, I think. And it just makes a series of very nice shapes and wobbles a bit, as if it's, almost like a jelly. But it will rotate all the way around, inside out. Look at it, almost fluid motion. And a lovely honeycomb sort of action. The paper's got little honeycomb joins to them, like Christmas decorations. But it makes a series of very beautiful shapes. There's a perfect little cone. Take it a bit further. It's also got a nice feel to it. It's got beautiful lines to it. So a good finger fiddle, and it'll go on the finger actually. Really well on the finger. So that's definitely a finger fiddle. Here's one I came across in Boston a year or so ago, made by a 16-year-old girl. It's just very, very nice thing. A little, what do you call it? Gyro Rings. It's a series of little rings, all slightly concave, so they slip into each other, and you can actually, by moving them, almost complete a sphere. If you just move each piece a few degrees, each one will roughly make a sphere. But it's more fun to, for instance, take it apart. Just turn the things to right angles and turn it apart, fiddle with the pieces as well. It's a really good finger fiddle, this. You can assemble it or disassemble it as you wish, and it's an entertaining and enjoyable exercise to get the rings in the right order. So a very nice finger fiddle, that one. Here's one that's taken me ages to sort out. It's actually a ballpoint pen. There's a biro there. But it takes ages because these are little spinners to get that situation where we have a proper giraffe with the head, the body and the legs. Once you start spinning it, oh dear, no chance, it's all bundled up. But that's the idea. When you're playing around, when you're not actually writing a letter with the other end, you can spin these pieces to your heart's content and try and get the dear old giraffe to form again. No, Geoffrey, the giraffe is not coming together. But it's a lovely thing to fiddle with your hands. A much simpler one is this thing here, a blue boot, made of rubber. Oh, it invites you to squeeze it, of course. So, oh, a cat, a white cat, extraordinary idea. In it goes. Squeeze it again, Lovely noise, that too. So and it's got a little, looks like a little tab here to make it into a key fob as well. But I love the idea of that popping out of the middle of the thing. Nice one. This is one of those bistables, they call it. It's a kind of metal which has got two lots of bends to it. This is a very small one, so normally sold large ones like this. They're called wrist snappers. They go around the wrist. This isn't. It's a small one, so it's a finger snapper. There we are. If I've damaged myself, I've already got a bandage. Lovely idea, isn't it? It's very simple, and it's also doubled up with a little tape measure. Well, it's got 6 inches or 7 inches there, but it's got that lovely action of just going over the tape, over the fingers, and a good finger fiddle to play around with, and a nice feel to it. It's got spring steel inside. Lovely one, that. The mandala is one of the oldest ever invented, I think, probably about 1,000 years old. This is a very small version. I've got about 20 of these in my collection, but the rings at the top are woven so that they form a hemisphere and another hemisphere, and it looks like a Saturn, like a Saturn planet like that there. But then these middle ones open up and close in and form vases, and that's a wheel, which etc. etc. It's a very enjoyable thing to play with. The bigger ones have pretty beads in them, and I think the Buddhists are reckoned to use them as some meditation tools to help them meditate. But the mandala is a very, very old finger fiddle, and it's still being made, and I think will be made for centuries to come. This was a funny finger fiddle because it's actually one of those little springy, slinky springs, but I found it was far too small. It's got a nice shape to it, a heart shape. It's far too small to walk down the stairs. It won't even go down the slope. It's just too short. But it's a nice thing to play with, actually. You can just fiddle around as much as you like. You can put your fingers through it. You can pull it out. You can admire the fact that the heart shape there is slowly turned round. It's got a nice little sort of rotation to the motion. But it's a little thing to go whirly, 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 and something to distract your hands when you want something to fiddle with. That's a good one. This is a serious one, MagicTen, the Japanese call it. This is more like a sort of wrist exerciser, but it's good for the fingers too. What do? Well, the idea is to put it in your hand and rotate it around like that. The little knobbles sort of feel good, but according to the leaflet, it's all to do with the pressure point for the heart and the kidneys and the liver, etc., and it's supposed to be very good therapy. In addition to that, it's got a little metal top to it, which may or may not be magnetic. And it's got, as you can see, thermochromic ink in it. So as that's warming up in my hands, it's starting to go from purple to pink. Or this one here, if I keep rotating this one here, will start to lighten up and start off red, and eventually it'll turn it a little bit yellow, I think. Yes, it's starting to get lighter. But this is really good therapy for all the fingers, and even the wrist itself. The wrist exerciser come finger fiddle, and will slip over the thumb, which is rather nice too. So a serious Japanese one, Kenko's. They came out about 20 years ago, I think. A strange one that I picked up in one of the big stores in Hamleys was in about 20 years ago. Being sold off very cheaply. This is extraordinary. It's sections of a sphere which has been turned into 4 quadrants and 4 quadrants. But look at it, it's got this bizarre material, a sort of gungy plastic thing on the outside skin. And the idea is to manipulate and move these balls around so as to get some sort of order to them. Perhaps all the there's 2 yellows. We haven't got a matching pair there. We should get that red one to come up here. And the feel of it is it's quite hard to do, actually. You've got to work your hands quite hard to move the pieces past each other. But at the end of it, you can achieve something with a pattern. But as finger fiddle, that's the perfect one, and it's a good wrist exerciser. Lovely idea. Bizarre, but I love it. A most sophisticated one, designed by a guy called Angus Southern. I've talked to him on the phone, but haven't met him about 20 years ago. They're called Continuum Motion. Out of Liverpool he was. You have to choose your pair rather carefully to get you started. I think it's that pair there, and I think it's probably that pair there. And then you've got to do an action like this. Look at my hands, the way they're moving. And look at these 2 free ones. Look at the motion they go through. It's like a figure of 8, but a mad, bizarre figure of 8 in 3 dimensions. I'd love to see that traced out on the 3-dimensional oscilloscope or something to see what the motion is. And the idea is to move like that, and then if you're getting good at it, you've got to put 3 fingers there and 3 fingers there and do the same thing, but that's much harder with the fingers, and coordinated motion is very hard to find that, and then with one as well. So a lovely little design for finger fiddling of a very high order. That's probably the most sophisticated one I've ever come across, I think. We had them in a Christmas pack one year. It was great fun. Inkicks, which a friend of mine from many years ago designed in America, This is a lovely piece, because again, if you make it do a little nice twiddly action, which is very sweet. But the basic piece is this thing here. It's just something which you can break apart. It's got little ridges there, so when you put it together, you have to force them together. They will find that they will actually take up particular motions, that position, that position, that position, that position. Each of them clicks and holds the thing in place. So you can make a series of lovely shapes and patterns and everything else with it. I've done that with, I've had snakes and all sorts of things like that. So this is a very enjoyable finger fiddly toy for constructing or just for putting on your finger. That's what they should be about. This is a strange one from Japan. Yes, you've heard of 2 peas in a pod, haven't you? Well, oh, there they are. Oh, but what's this? We've got something in the middle. Oh, you're not very happy either with it. This is a bizarre thing from Japan. It's supposed to be a key fob as well. It's a finger fiddle. It's a endami pea, I think it is. And the idea is to fiddle it like that, as if it's something therapeutic about squeezing peas out of a pod. So that's what it allows you to do. But all you do is squeeze that one, squeeze that one, squeeze that one, and then back to the beginning. And you can do that for hours and hours, they suggest. I'm not sure I'd want to. I suppose if you're not concentrating on it and you're just enjoying the sensation, it might be quite fun to do. It's got a nice construction to it. It's nicely made. It probably quite long lasting too, but peas in a pod taken to another level. Japanese, well done them. Now you probably come across this stuff here, which is probably the oldest, simplest finger fiddle you can have. It's just bubble plastic, and kids love playing with this stuff. You take it and you squeeze it with a pop, and another one with a pop, or you can put it into I've had them in greeting cards where you pop it, or on the carpets where kids dance up and down, going pop, 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 pop. So far so good, but the Japanese always have to go one better. What have they done? They made a version which never runs out, because this, after about 30 pops, is all finished. Here's one which will last much longer, 2 or 3 weeks. It's battery operated, bubble popper, would you believe? Bubble plastic, but it's made of it. It's got a battery inside, it's got a little chip, it's got a loudspeaker. When you press it, you just about hear a little click sound. And that click is not mechanical, it's produced by the electronics. Click. Nice feel to it. And on it goes for 2 weeks or so before it runs out. Sometimes I'm still costing exercise of the cost of this stuff versus the micro coulombs as this is used up, and see which works out the cheapest. It seems ridiculous, but if you just want something to fiddle with your hand, and something which makes a little feedback, which is the sound of clicking, that will do as well as anything. What do you think?